How did someone making $60,000 a year become a millionaire in 7 years? Should you buy a house? And will the new Fed chair make your mortgage cheaper? Let's find out. Welcome back to the Personal Finance Club show. Hey, Jen.
Hey, Jeremy, what's up?
So I know when you're at the store, you always look at the cost of things. I mean, not you, but I think we all do. But do you ever consider the cost per use of things? So, for example, I might go to Kmart and buy a really cheap shirt for $10. Does Kmart still exist, by the way? I don't know
think
why I
so.
went to Kmart. Could have gone Target. I could have gone, I don't know, Walmart. I went Kmart. I'm maybe showing my Midwest from the 80s roots or something. But yeah, let's say you go to Kmart and you can buy a shirt for $10, or you can go to like Lululemon and buy a shirt for $100. But the Kmart shirt you're going to wear twice, the Lululemon shirt you're going to wear 50 times. Your cost per use is actually dramatically less with the Lululemon shirt. Do you ever consider that when you're shopping?
1,000%. I feel like clothes is the easiest way to do it. Because like if you get a blender, you're not really thinking how many times I use this blender. But you get like a dress and you're like, I wore it to this wedding and then I wore it to church and then I wore it out for like that beach party. Like you could be like, well, now the dress really only costs $12 because I wore it X amount of times.
I think that hits women way harder because men just assume they're going to wear something like 1,000 times.
Right.
Whereas women are like, okay, this is a very specific dress for a very specific engagement. So if it's a $200 dress, the cost per use is $200. But if I, like you said, if I can use it 4 times, now it's 50. That changes the math dramatically. Whereas if a guy buys a suit, they're like, they're going to bury me in this suit one day. So
as long as I can fit in this thing,
right. It's going to get infinite
altered.
use underground, 6 feet under one of these days.
Are there other things that you would do cost per use? I mean, because you're like
100%.
Okay, tell me. Because like a car, you're like, how many times have I used my car? I feel like that's worth it. But like, what else are you doing that for?
I think about that all the time. So yeah, my wife has a Peloton membership. I actually did full credit. She actually did cancel recently, but she would go and it's like $50 a month. And this isn't like to go to a gym and use their machines. It's like to just have the app on your like machine we already paid for in your home. $50 a month. It's crazy. Yeah. And I say I'm like, hey, fitness. Like cost is no option. Like, you know, it's cool, go with it. But as long as you're using it, if it's just sitting there collecting dust, $50 a month is crazy. It's like 3 months will go by and I'll like go into their little Peloton, like look at her ride history. And I'm like, ooh, that one ride you took in the last 3 months was $150. I hope you enjoyed that $150 pretend bicycle ride. I didn't really.
I mean, if you go to a fitness class, they're around $35 per class in LA. So I have a Peloton. I love it. I was on there this morning. So I feel like it is worth it because I think that with fitness, it ends up being accessibility. Like if it's not in my house, if it's not like the weights in my home or the bike, like I'm not necessarily.
Do you pay that membership or that?
Yeah, you have
to
pay
$50.
Membership.
Okay. Well, you don't have to. You can still ride on like the little like, you know, old fashioned stationary bikes. Didn't even have a screen. You would just ride them.
I think, well, yes, this is true. And I had friends during the pandemic when they were like selling out that just bought like a regular stationary bike and did those workouts without the actual Peloton or whatever the app.
Right.
But I think that like they update the music. Music's huge for me in fitness because if I'm not like loving the tunes, I'm not going to work out. They put new workouts out a ton. Like for me, it's worth it. 3 years later, I'm like still using it. That to me is like worth it.
That's amazing. And like I said, I don't question it if you're using it. You know, if you use it like even like 2 or 3 or 4 times a month, like whatever, like you said, it comes out to be less than even going to like a, you know, class pass kind of fitness class.
Right.
But it just burns my soul when it just sits there with like clothes drying on it for 3 months. I'm like, what did we just spend $150 on? That's crazy.
This is true. I do dry my clothes on there.
See, I told you it's just these stationary bikes. But you know, it's tough though because like I always say, if I could spend $2,000 on January 1st and be in like incredible physical health and physical shape by the end of the year, like I would 100% do that. That's like, you know, to be like strong and fit and thin and agile and mobile and all these things. Of course you would do that, but you know, and so therefore, yeah, the $50 a month is almost like, you know, what is that? $600 per year. It's like not even a third of that, but that assumes you got to use it. You know, you got to do the hard part. Easy part is putting your credit card number to the app. That part's really easy. My thumbs are very strong from typing credit card numbers into apps. Don't even need to type it anymore. It's just in stupid Apple Pay or whatever.
That's true. Danger, danger.
These big companies are so good at taking my money.
That they
Let's learn
are.
how to make some more money. How about that? Let's get into the show.
Let's get into it with hot topics.
What's our hot topic today?
Exciting news that I know you're so pumped to talk about is a headline in the AP that reads,
Oh my gosh.
I know you're on the edge of your seat.
No one likes sexy Associated Press headlines about the Federal Reserve more than me. What do we got today?
I know. I'm sorry to do it to you. The headline says, don't count on rate cuts just yet. Warsh as Fed chair may not lead to a big policy change. So what should we expect to see with this new appointment, this guy, Kevin Warsh? And is there any predictability as to how much change he'll bring to the economy and all that? What are your thoughts?
So I can never answer this question because I have the heart of a teacher and I always see headlines like this and I just know 2/3 or 80% or 90% of people don't know what the F the Fed is and don't know what who Warsh is and what any of this is. And so my answer to this has less to do with this speculative big talk. This is what to expect for rates to do, blah, blah. It's more about, I want to kind of go over what is the Fed? Who is this guy? What's going on? So the Fed is the Federal Reserve. It's basically the big bank of the U.S. government. And it kind of oversees all the other banks. So when you go to Bank of America or Wells Fargo or your credit union, they all kind of answer to the Fed. And when you borrow money from a bank, your bank is kind of getting their money from the Federal Reserve. And this is somewhat of an oversimplification, but the basic idea is the Federal Reserve is basically setting the rate at which banks can borrow money. Thus, it impacts the rate at which they can loan money to you or the rates at which they pay interest in your savings account. And so if this big Federal Reserve centralized bank raises rates, that means mortgages get more expensive, maybe credit cards get more expensive, small business loans get more expensive, and savings accounts start paying more. If they lower rates, all those loans get cheaper and savings accounts start paying less. And so when you go look at current mortgage rates or what your savings account is paying, that's kind of an indirect impact of the Federal Reserve. And this gets a lot of news like this because a lot of pressure is put on this centralized bank, this big government bank, the Federal Reserve, to basically not ruin our economy. Because if they do the wrong thing with these rates, it can ruin the economy. So for example, let's say they put rates at 0%. What that would mean is that all the companies in the world can start borrowing a bunch of money. People can buy more homes. People can, get small business loans. They can run up their credit card at a lower interest rate. It basically just floods the economy with more money, which actually causes inflation. Because let's say if tomorrow, today mortgage rates are around 7%. Let's say tomorrow mortgage rates were 0%. That the average payment on a home, your average mortgage payment on a home purchase, would probably drop in half or less because you're not paying interest anymore. And what would that do to prices? It would shoot up home prices. So that $1 million home you want to buy would now be $2 million. And, that just for homes, same kind of thing would even happen with food and with clothing because people have more jobs and people have more, more money from their credit cards. So basically that is kind of inflationary when you lower rates. But then when you raise rates, it kind of slows the economy. It's deflationary, which is good, but it also means hiring slows down. The real estate market slows down, job market slows down. And so I kind of picture it they're on this massive freighter, like a big, huge boat called the U.S. economy. And there's no steering wheel, there's no throttle, there's no anything. There's just one lever, lower rates, higher rates. And they're trying to navigate this massive U.S. economy with exactly one lever, forward or back. And they get a lot of heat for it. And so this guy, Kevin Warsh, is the nominee to be the new chairman of the Federal Reserve, replacing Jerome Powell when his term ends on May 15th. And historically, This is where politics kind of get entered into. All you people who say, don't talk about politics. Hey, sorry, we live here on planet US where politics has
Planet
its
US.
hands in. I mean, I was going to say planet Earth, but this isn't really an Earth thing. This is a US thing. But here on planet US, politics has their hands in my pockets and they're putting their hands on my dollar bills. And so if I'm walking down the street and someone puts their hand in my pocket,
You got a lot to worry about.
I'm gonna have words with that person, unless they're like married to me. And even then, I'd probably still say something. I'm like,
why is your hand in my pocket?
What are we doing here? What is this? I'm game, but what is this? And actually, that's what I would say to a stranger too. I'm like, I'm game, but I just want to know what the game is. Don't tell me.
I'm ready to go.
Tell me later. Tell me if I won or lost. I'll find out later.
Oh God.
Just kidding. This is not. If you see me on the street, do not.
Don't
well,
put
actually,
your hand in my pocket.
Surprise me. All right. So politics enters here because now the president nominates the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Mm-hmm. And the chairman of the Federal Reserve is like the main guy in charge of this big bank. But it is important to note that Jerome Powell, the exiting chair, and Kevin Warsh, who's currently the nominee, but looks like very, very likely he's going to be confirmed and take over in a couple of weeks here, will be the new chairman. They don't set the rates. It's not like Jerome Powell is saying there, what do I want rates to be? There's actually a Federal Open Market Committee that has 12 members. That's like various board members and presidents of various parts of the federal bank. It's like, a little bit more complicated than even I care about. But basically, there's 12 other people who vote on this thing. And those 12 people, the chairman has a 4-year term and is basically nominated by each president, each presidential term. The members of the board that are like voting on this thing, the Federal Open Market Committee, they serve 14-year terms. And they specifically have really long terms so they can like outlast several presidents. And so if one president is being a dick to you, you're going to be like, whatever, man, I got 9 more years in my term. It doesn't, I'm going to be an old man by the time this is over. 14 years is a long term, right? And so
long term,
the rules of the Fed have been set up to basically try to withstand political pressure. And, we live in a very political time if you've turned on the TV lately. And if you see President Trump these days, he'll be saying things like, once Kevin's in office, he's going to lower rates, because presidents tend to want lower rates. They want to pour gasoline on the economy and have lower mortgage rates and have more business spending and have a hotter job economy, blah, blah, blah. And those are all good things. But the bad things, the inflation is kind of like the next president's problem. And we kind of saw that at the end of COVID, where COVID hit 2020, and this was bipartisan. Trump had to be president, but both sides of the political aisle basically voted to have these massive, massive stimulus packages. Just give money to everyone, try to survive this crazy once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. We'll do our best. But then Biden takes office, extends some of those stimulus payments, and then we get this hyperinflation. Hyper might be extreme, but inflation went from like around 2% up to like in the 9s, which is crazy for the U.S. in the recent history. And that wasn't because everyone who's hearing this is probably going to put this through their own political lens, but in my opinion, it wasn't because Biden was just making inflation happen. That was like the echo effect of all this COVID stimulus, which started under Trump and continued under Biden. So, point fingers to whichever guy you didn't like. But that was the bad thing for the economy, but it happened later. Whereas like the good thing kind of happens before the next term, right? So Biden, or before the next election, right? So Trump, current president, would love to have rates drop to make job numbers look good and make, mortgage numbers look good, to get more votes for his party, and then let inflation be the next guy's problem. So this headline is saying, don't count on rate cuts just yet. Warsh as Fed chair may not lead to big policy changes. And so it's basically saying, hey, even though this is like Trump's handpicked guy, you might think that he's just going to do whatever Trump wants. But one, Kevin Warsh doesn't say that. And during his nomination process, he was saying, I will be independent. I'll do what the Fed is supposed to do, which is make decisions best, independent from politics, best for the economy, long-term interest of the United States, yada, yada, yada. And he actually has one vote on that 12-member panel, but 11 others also vote who have these 14-year terms. And so while he he's like the mouthpiece, and he organizes the meetings and he sets agendas and yada yada yada. The committee still is really setting those rates, and so I don't think we're quite at Banana Republic. Is that what it's called, a Banana Republic? I know
What?
I know that's like a clothing store, but isn't it also
Right.
like a pretend like government where it's just like not serious or whatever?
Oh, I've never
Um,
heard it used like that.
yeah, I think that's why the store is called that. But I'm already probably saying I need to go find a political science major or something. But I think a Banana
News to
Republic is like
me.
I think it's like I think it's came from like Central America where these fake governments that like weren't actually serious like representations of people, but just were ruling through military or whatever, but not like so they might, a Banana Republic might have like, I'm putting air quotes here if you're listening, might have a, you know, 12-member committee, but it wouldn't be serious. Like they would just do whatever the military leader
Ah,
wanted.
gotcha.
Um, but I think we're not there yet. I think it still is serious, and since these are 14-year terms, and the threads of democracy are hanging on just barely or whatever. Um, we'll see. But I think the headline is basically saying, while this seems, Trump seems to be someone who puts political pressure on many different, people in the government. It's too soon to say whether that's going to happen here. And, frankly, a lot of Americans want lower rates, while it's nice to have more interest in your savings account. I think most Americans prefer lower rates for borrowing things like buying new homes.
Hmm.
And so, and of course, I would like that too, but I also don't want our economy to spin out of control and become, hyperinflation like Venezuela or something, which would be very bad. So time will tell, but I wouldn't go mortgage shopping just yet. I think you gotta wait to at least till the 15th to see what he does there.
All right. Time will tell. And if and when he is appointed, who knows what will be going on in this world that we might not even be worried
It
about
might
that
be
at
a
that
new
time.
hot topic by then.
Exactly. Hopefully a couple. All right. Let's move into. Do you want to have your question answered on the show? Go to personalfinanceclub.com/ask. Can I ask a dumb one?
You're asking smart questions to a dumb dude. What do we got today?
We've got a question from Andrea in South Florida. Once again, we're all over the map here. We're still. Have we gone international yet? Have we talked about that?
I'm sure we have, right? I don't know. And did
I
you
don't
check if
think.
it's an Andrea or is it an Andrea
Oh,
or an
you know
Andrea?
what? Yeah, because is your wife Andrea?
My wife is an Andrea,
Andrea.
but there's something magical about that name where no matter if someone doesn't know her, they always guess it wrong. But then
Andrea could be.
Andrea, I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, those are perfectly reasonable pronunciations too, but I just think no one ever guesses it. And I assume if you're an Andrea, they say Andrea. I assume it's always the opposite, right?
Right, right. Well, I should
Yeah.
have asked, but I didn't. So hopefully we're not butchering your name. Although we've said pretty much every pronunciation at this
Yeah,
point.
one
So
of those
take
was
your
probably
pick.
close at this point. Yeah, just clip that part out and play it over each
Exactly.
time.
And before we get into her question, she did say, I tune in during my long commute and it genuinely makes the drive better, which is saying a lot if you've ever been stuck on the Palmetto Expressway. I even catch myself saying Scroll Patrol out loud with Jeremy sometimes. Please tell me I'm not the only one. So I thought that was
Love
really sweet.
it.
Very sweet.
That's so
Okay, so
nice.
Andrea asks, for someone hoping to buy in a high cost area like South Florida, where home prices, insurance, and taxes are all pretty high, what's the best way to financially prepare for a mortgage? How much should you realistically have saved beyond the down payment? And are there certain money milestones you'd want to hit before feeling ready to buy?
Love this question. And I actually just saw this like report or news story, something that had Miami, which is South Florida, and San Diego, which is where I live, tied for the least affordable places to live in the US as measured by average income divided by housing and food costs. So basically, South Florida and Southern California, we spend more of our income on food and housing than anywhere else in the US. Even
Yeah.
like the Bay Area, which was a little bit surprising, is that the Bay Area has much higher wages, right? People are just making
Right.
more on it. That's not true for everyone, of course. If you're like working as a server or something in the Bay Area, things are probably pretty rough. I don't know, maybe you get tipped really well or something. I don't know. But I just feel like a lot of people move to South Florida and Southern California for the weather, essentially, pay the sunshine tax
Mhm.
and jobs, career be damned. I'm just going to make it work. And, and the net result is we're basically paying a lot more for housing relative to our incomes because there's not massive, like, New York City, San Francisco economies here. I mean, of course,
Right.
they're both big cities with lots of jobs, but that's the idea. So, the first thing I would say is, you don't need my permission, but I'm going to give it to you anyway, which is you have my permission to not buy. These home markets are really, really expensive relative to renting. And they, sometimes like the market is efficient and the market does its work, but it's not efficient here in that, renting can actually legitimately be cheaper, can be the correct financial decision. I'm not saying it is. People, when I say this, they lose their hats. They take their hats and throw them out the window on the Palmetto Expressway, and they just lose their hats right out the window. And they say, Jeremy, and he throws, how could renting be better? You crazy guy. And I'm not saying it is better. I'm saying it could be better because sometimes so many people want to buy and so many rich people are buying that home prices get pushed up so high, but the rental market is a separate market, and the people competing for home purchases have way more money than people competing for rentals, and you can actually just live for a lot less money renting. And rentals sometimes have other benefits like the economy of scale. For example, if most people will buy a single family home if you're a buyer, but will rent an apartment. And apartments have shared walls and shared land space and shared parking and shared utilities and blah, blah, blah. And it actually makes living there cheaper than owning the whole land, owning the whole property and doing it yourself. And so, I give you permission not to buy if you don't want to, because I think a lot of people think it's the American dream. I'm a financial failure if I haven't bought. That's, renting is throwing money away, and owning is this like great financial opportunity. And if I want to be an adult and I want to be respected and I want to achieve the American dream, I have to be a homeowner. And that's just BS, financial baggage that we've like brought with us from the 50s or something. It's not true. So second, that's my first thing. You have permission not to buy if you don't want to. Second, I would look at the real costs of homeownership. First thing I'd start with is you want to at least save a 20% down payment. I would never buy a home with less than 20% down, because when you're in the less than 20% down territory, you, one, are paying PMI, which is primary mortgage insurance, which means on top of all the other expenses I'm going to go into in a second, you're paying even more expenses because you put so little down. The lender thinks you're at risk for not even being able to, cover a small swing in the value of the home, which means if the home goes down by 10%, you would just walk away and let it be foreclosed upon. And so they make you pay for insurance to insure them in case you bail out and paying the mortgage, right? And it just gets so expensive. And also, if you can't save 20%, then I think you're rushing a little bit, right? Rent for a few more years. If you're cutting it so thin that you can't get to 20% down payment, then just be renter for a few more years. No big deal. Pile up money. And if you're cutting it so close that you can't save that 20%, and you're probably not going to be able to pay the mortgage either, because consider all of the costs. So first, let's say you're buying an $800,000 home. 20% of that is $160,000. A lot of money, for sure, of course. But consider the first thing is the opportunity cost. That $160,000, instead of sitting inside of your home doing nothing, could be invested. And when you put $160,000 in the market and it goes up 10% per year, it doubles every 7 years. So if you hold it for 7 years, that's 320, 14 years, 640, 21 years, 1.2 million. Did I do that right? Yeah, it gets crazy, right? It can turn into millions of dollars over the course of what you would be paying for the mortgage. Homes go up in value too, of course, but not as much as the stock market, especially not relative to their expenses. What expenses you say? Well, one thing I like to say is that rent is the most you'll pay. So if you're renting a place for $3,000 a month and the roof needs replacing, your rent is $3,000 a month. Or if the insurance goes up on your place, then your rent is $3,000 a month. Of course, rent can change year to year, things like that, but there's not like a bunch of unknown surprise expenses. Like your rent is your ceiling. Whereas with a home, your mortgage payment, basically repaying that loan, the principal and interest on the loan that you borrowed to buy that house, that's the least you'll pay. because on top of that principal and interest, you have to pay property tax. My property tax here in San Diego is like $2,000 a month. I pay like
What?
$24,000 a year.
That's my
It's
rent.
crazy. I know, exactly. I know. Jen's over there as a renter. I'm like, yeah, I know. And so like, I don't pay rent, but guess what? I do pay rent to the county of San Diego government just to have my road paved when I leave my house. And when I used to be a renter, like my last rental was $1,350 a month. It was obviously
Wow.
it was like much smaller than my current home because now I have a family and things like that. But my family could have lived there. It would have been a much different living experience. I was like a 1 bedroom, and we have like a 4 bedroom now. But um, I've personally committed like the primary sin of buying a home, which is I bought way more home than I was renting. And so while buying versus renting isn't really the issue is how much are you paying? And I'm paying way more because of property tax. So yeah, we have principal and interest, property tax, also maintenance. I think a lot of new homeowners assume maintenance isn't really that big of a deal. What is it? A trip to Home Depot every few months, and I buy a new filter for my heater, which reminds me, I think I need to do that. But maintenance, they estimate to be 1% to 3% of the home purchase cost. And property taxes depends on your state, but usually around 1%. So, if you have an $800,000 home, 1% of that is $8,000 a year you're paying in rent. Mine is about 1%. My home is around $2 million, and I'm paying $24,000. So I think it's about 1.25%.
My
I know,
God.
it's crazy. If you're living somewhere in the Midwest, you're like $2 million, that must be a beautiful home. It's a very nice home, but it's like it's like almost like a starter home in Southern California.
Crazy
Yeah,
to say.
but maintenance, I think a lot of people think, oh, it's like a, you know, called the refrigerator repairman here and a air filter there. But what really happens is you're living there for 3 years, and then you're like, oh, the roof's leaking. You call a roof guy, and he says, this roof is rotted to the core. You need a new roof. It's going to be $15,000 or it's going to be $22,000.
My
And you're
God.
like,
Is your home
oh,
new? Did you buy it new or did you buy it from someone else?
I mean, it was built in the 70s,
Oh,
but
wow.
it was remodeled right before we moved in. Flipper had it.
Wow.
Um, but
Nice.
flippers kind of do like the big stuff, and then all the little stuff are left to you. So this is not about my home. We did a
Sorry,
lot.
sorry. I just got
we,
distracted.
no, I love the questions. But I mean, it's a good point because when we moved in, we put turf in the backyard, which was like totally necessary because the kids play there, and we installed a fireplace insert, which is totally necessary because we like use it every single day. And I did epoxy in the garage floor, which was totally necessary because like we do laundry in there and I work out in there, and like it's we put mini splits in the kids' room and in our room because mini splits
I
are
don't
like
even know what
little air
half these
conditioners.
words mean. What is turf, like fake grass?
Yeah, fake grass. Turf.
All
You
right.
don't know the word turf?
I don't know turf. Turf to me sounds like pavement, like
Jen,
asphalt.
we're planting, like, have you ever watched a sport before? Turf is like a common vocab word.
Okay, okay. What'd you say? Split screen? What'd you say about the kids' room? What do you
Oh,
splitters?
oh yeah, so then I did kind of roll through that. The fireplace, we did an insert, which is basically putting like a gas electronic fire inside of your fireplace. And so now we can like tell Alexa to turn our fire on and off. It's very
Oh
nice.
my God, rich.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very rich. Garage floor, we did epoxy, which means like normally you walk into a garage and it's like just concrete on the floor, but we actually did one of those like these like shiny speckled, really nice. I mean, it looks so sharp. But like, and then the mini splits are basically split means split air conditioning and heat, and mini means they're kind of small and they go up on the wall. You've seen them
Nice.
before, like in stores and things. It's like a little air conditioning unit up on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and on the second floor in California makes a huge difference because you can cool down a room in like 2 seconds without having to AC the entire house.
Mm-hmm.
But every one of those things I just mentioned was probably about $5,000 each, and I skipped over a
Jesus.
lot too. And so we probably spent 60 grand, you know, on little stuff when we moved in. And 60 grand, you amortize that over the time we're going to live here. Let's say we live here for 10 years, it's still hundreds of dollars a month that we're putting into maintenance. You do one remodel, you do one roof repair, you do one garage or one driveway replacement. Like, this stuff happens to homeowners. It's a money pit. It's a total money pit. And, so don't assume you're going to get away with just DIYing a trip to Home Depot once a year because, that stuff is going to happen. If you're married, your spouse is going to, I don't know if you're what gender you are, if you're the same gender, or if you're, a new gender, I don't, but your spouse, I promise you, is going to want to remodel. Jen's like, fuck, we got
I
canceled.
feel like we're gonna get
Okay.
canceled. I don't want to do this anymore.
I've gone off the rails. I've gone off the rails. But the point is, your spouse is going to want to do a remodel. I promise you. And then you're like, oh man, what's like? Oh, $20,000. All right, add that to our monthly,
So
amortized cost.
if you weren't married, you wouldn't do any of these things?
No, I would be living in a 1350. Well, I was living in a garage apartment. It was 1350 a month. That's actually no. I did buy my first place, which was a condo by myself.
And then did you do any upgrades in your
I
condo?
know that's a fair. I gut remodeled the entire thing when I moved in. It was like built. They like hadn't been remodeled since the 70s, and I like did it all. So I don't know why I'm blaming my spouse. This is. I hope Andrea, not the Andrea who asked this question, but the Andrea is married to me, doesn't listen to this episode. She's gonna make.
I hope she doesn't either,
Peloton.
but for different reasons.
Okay.
Okay, so you're gonna be doing
Hopefully
remodels. It's gonna cost you a lot of money.
Right. So that's maintenance. I'm just adding all these things that are going to cost you for being a homeowner.
Crazy.
Then you add insurance. If you buy a home, you basically, and you have a mortgage, the mortgage company requires you to carry homeowners insurance. Or if you buy it in cash and you don't cover homeowners insurance and your house burns down, you lose potentially hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
In LA,
asset.
they do make you get renter's insurance, but mine's like $24 a month.
Yeah, renter's insurance is cheap, where homeowners insurance is like usually on 0.5% of the cost per year.
But they don't cover earthquakes here. Like they make you get renter's insurance, but you really can't get earthquake coverage like anywhere.
Oh, dude, I can rant about insurance all day long because it doesn't cover earthquakes, it doesn't cover forest fires, it doesn't cover wars, it doesn't cover it doesn't cover a lot of stuff. And then I'm left thinking, well, what happens in that case? And what happens is you just take the loss, you eat it. And I'm like,
Crazy.
okay, if I'm already eating it in like half of these scenarios, what are we even doing here? Like, why do I have to pay you to cover the other half? You've already decided what you're willing to cover and what you're not. There's some insurance broker out there right now who's like punching a hole through their hat bag. No, Jeremy, you don't understand. Kitchen fires are the number one cause of grease on the walls. And
What?
I don't know.
And then if it's your fault, don't you still have to pay anyway? I don't know how it works. Like if there's a kitchen fire and you caused the kitchen fire, is that covered by your renter's insurance?
I actually think it is covered, to be fair. I mean, it depends. If it's like arson, it's not. If it's intentional,
Right.
but I think accidents are covered. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It depends. Don't come to me for your insurance advice, except for not to use it as an investment. All right, continuing. We're just ranting about all these expenses. Continuing, utilities, landscapers, cleaners. You say cleaners, landscapers. Landscapers you're probably not paying as a renter. Cleaners, maybe you are, maybe you're not. But generally, a lot of people like rent modestly and buy extravagantly, and then you're like, oh my gosh, we've got this 4-bedroom house, we can't even keep it up. We're going to hire cleaners now. Exactly what we've fallen into. And so add another 0.5% to 1% a year of the home cost in that stuff. Utilities get more expensive as the home gets bigger. I used to rent a duplex, and my utility bill was like $14 a month. It was just like this little tiny 400 square foot thing.
Wait, what? $14?
Like $14 a month. And this was back in probably 2014, so it was 10 years ago.
Like gas, electric, water.
Gas, electric, yeah. Gas, electric.
What?
I guess water is covered. I know it's crazy.
Yeah, they do LA DWP, so it's like all together. Water and power is together here. For $14?
No, it was because, I had like, it was just a tiny little place. I lived there by myself. I had like one TV. There's like no appliances. There's like nothing.
Were you very cautious of like making sure lights were on and off and things like that? Are you that kind of person?
I mean, I just think when you live alone, you kind of just naturally are. There's like less blame to go around if someone's leaving lights on.
Right.
Now with multiple people, like, it could have been anyone, and what are you going to do? But yeah, now my utility bill probably ranges from $250 to $600 a month.
Woo!
Because now we have air conditioning and heat and fireplace and garage doors opening and laundry being run 10 times a day because we have kids. It's and utilities have just got a lot more expensive in 10 years. So anyway, you add all that stuff up. Principal and interest, property tax, maintenance, insurance, utilities, landscapers, cleaners, you get to like 3 to 5% of the home value every single year. And so if you have an $800,000 home, your mortgage assuming 20% down payment and a 6.5% rate, would be $4,400 per month. So you're like, okay, maybe I can afford that. Rent's $3,000, the mortgage is $4,400. We can make it swing. But then you forgot the $2,000 to $3,000 of that other stuff that adds on, and your $4,000 mortgage payment becomes $6,000 to $7,000. And
Mm.
so I think that's like the big mistake a lot of people do make, which is they're renting a modest place for $2,000 a month. Adjust these numbers to your life. Obviously, they might seem big or small depending on where you live and things like that. But you might be renting a modest place for $2,000 a month. You're like, okay, we'll move to a home, but I want a really nice home. If I'm going to buy a big nice home for $3,000 a month mortgage payment, and then you forget about the other $2,000 in other expenses, and so your $2,000 in rent became $5,000 in home expenses to live. And that $3,000 a month you're paying extra, had you been investing that, would easily make you a multimillionaire over the course of your career. And so, and whenever I go on this rant, people get so mad. They're like, Jeremy, renting's throwing money away. Clearly, renting for $2,000 a month is dramatically better than buying for $5,000 a month, financially speaking. That said, I'm a homeowner. I've made all of these critical mistakes and classic mistakes of homeowners, which is, buying a much bigger house than I was renting, and, having the landscapers and having the, big utility bills, and we're doing all these things. But, I made a decision that I'm choosing to spend my money this way, or my wife and I are choosing to spend our money this way because, we want a home that doesn't have a landlord, and you can't always rent homes like this consistently and things like that. But the bottom line is, you're not going to win the rent versus buy debate. There's not one answer that's going to make you magically wealthy. The big debate is just how much you're spending total. If you rent modestly and buy luxuriously, you're going to end up better as a renter. If you rent luxuriously, if you're renting a $10,000 penthouse, or you buy a little $150,000 duplex and rent the other side off, you'll be dramatically better buying, right? And so I think there's all these false equivalencies people make, which is oh, I'm going to do a 1-for-1. No, it's never like that. You're always buying something different than you're renting. And so, Andrew, to answer your question, I would just say, hey, have that down payment, look at the real total cost of homeownership with your eyes wide open, and then figure out, can you afford it? You happen to live in one of the most expensive places to live relative to people's income. So if you find out that your, total cost of homeownership is going to be 70% of your take-home pay, that's a problem. That's too high. You're going to be house poor and potentially put yourself in a very risky position if you have a job loss, can't make the payments, etc. If you do all the math and you come out to 20%, you're in great shape. 20% is really low, and there's no exact number that's right or wrong. It depends on your numbers. But I think just going into it with your eyes wide open is a good idea.
It's interesting how this topic has shifted in my lifetime. I think our lifetime. It used to be you must get a house. That's a signifier of success, and if you don't, then you're terrible, and blah blah blah. And now it's changed. It's shifted a little bit, at least I'll say.
I think that's very true. And I think that it's partially just the math. I think back in the 80s, or maybe the 80s are a bad example because rates are really high, but back in the 60s or something, it would take, 3 years of your, I'm making these numbers up, but it's, 3 years of your salary as a single income household to buy a house, to fully pay off a house. Now that number's more 8 or something. And so it's become dramatically, and 8 doesn't sound that bad, except that's assuming you're putting your entire salary into it.
Right.
And you have to pay for other stuff along the way. And so it really means it's becoming really, really less affordable. And I just think, this kind of these tree-lined white picket fence streets with everyone having their own home has kind of been baked into us as the measure for American success. But I don't think it needs to be. I think that you can live in a tall building in New York and raise kids there, or you can live in a, triplex and rent one unit out and rent the other unit to your brother and live there. There's no rules about what success is and what success isn't. And so, live the life you want to live. And to some people, that means renting is easier. They're like, what I don't want to deal with, a remodel or a roof or a toilet or plumbing, or I just want to call the management and have them fix the stuff. And I want to be able to move whenever I want. There's some really nice benefits to renting. And I want to have a lower cost of total home ownership and be investing a lot. That's a really low stress, luxurious kind of life to live. And there's some people like me who are like, okay, I've got 2 small kids now. I want to really plan in. I don't want a dick landlord telling me what to do. For me, this makes more sense. You know.
I love it. Okay, awesome. Thank you for tuning in from South Florida and for your question. I hope that answered it. And let's move on to Scroll Patrol.
Scroll Patrol. Did you say Andrea? Say it with me.
She's definitely said it with you, especially you answered her question. Come on. She's hype right now on that commute. Okay. Now, I've got a video from the internet. Jeremy has not seen it before. We're going to watch it together. He's going to react in real time and give it a score. So, Jeremy, whenever you're ready, click play.
All right. I've not seen this video before. Let's watch it.
Here are 3 ways to make money outside of your day job. Number 1, side gigs. DoorDash, Instacart, Spark, which is the Walmart equivalent, are all great options. I prefer these options as opposed to ride sharing because with gas prices as high as they are and the maintenance and wear and tear on your car, I just don't think Uber or Lyft are a profitable side gig. Number 2, get on the next affordable flight to Mexico. Acquire 10 kilograms of pure uncut Colombian white. Bring it back across state lines. Break it down. Hire foot soldiers. Take over your block. Poison your community. It'll be a little tough at the beginning, but the streets will harden your heart. Usurp your kingpin. Change the financial trajectory of your bloodline with blood money. Get your trap jumping. And number 3, I'm a big fan of index funds. Index fund is simply a collection or group of stocks. Think FANG or the S&P 500 as a whole. I like these as opposed to individually picking stocks because very few traders actually beat the market.
Yeah. He's right. Index funds are great. We talk about them all the time. Technically, FANG is an index fund. I see what he's saying there.
We talked about it last episode. That's the first time I'd heard of FANG, and then for it to come back up again, I was like, wow.
That's the first time you heard of FANG?
Well, maybe I hadn't and didn't know what. I just thought it was something else. Like it went over my head. It's like you're gonna laugh at me. I never heard of a Rivian before you started talking about wanting it, and now I see them everywhere. But I'm sure I saw them before.
That's how it always goes. You've never heard of something, and as soon as someone brings it up, then they're everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, Rivians are definitely. I mean, we live in Southern California. If you're watching this from the Midwest, you probably have never seen a Rivian. I assume even where my brother lives. A Tesla is still a rare sighting.
Same. When I moved to LA, I was like, "Oh my God, they're everywhere!" And I had probably knew the number by 5 Teslas in my life until I moved to LA.
Right, and now it's Teslas are 50% of cars around here. It
Seriously,
seems including 50% of the cars in my driveway.
Oh my
1
God,
out of 2.
Hilarious.
But man, it's a nice ride. I know. Politics.
I've been in them. They're very nice.
Yeah. But he's right. Index funds are great, and side gigs. I kind of don't love the gig economy. We talked in our last episode about how I kind of prefer starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
What was that second one?
Should you get your trap jumping?
Okay, I don't know what that means.
He told you go to Mexico, get pure uncut cocaine, bring it across the border. Yeah.
But I don't know. Get your trap
business.
Jumping? Is that like a saying or something?
You know what a trap house is?
No.
It's like a drug house where lots of shady things go down. So he's basically let's get it popping.
Get your drug house going is get your trap jumping.
Yeah.
Okay, I had
poison your community is what he's saying.
Yeah. That may be very lucrative.
Did you like the music? You started bopping your head.
It was very dark. I was I knew the third one's gonna be a normal one. I was no, the third one's gonna be
I love that creator so much. He's so funny.
I've never seen him before. I was really funny.
He never talks about money. It was so random when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, worlds collide. I was like, I want to bring this to the pod.
I saw another one that's how to buy your first home in Southern California. 1, cancel Netflix. 2, make your coffee at home. 3, borrow $1 million from daddy because you're a special little boy.
I've seen those, yeah.
And then 4, drive for DoorDash or whatever.
I see those so much, and I have to fight to not bring those to the podcast every week. I'm like, Jen, be serious for a second. But this week I couldn't help myself.
No, that was good. Yeah, I don't know about the drug thing, but the other two
Okay.
are fine. I don't.
Okay.
How do I grade this? I mean, I'm a big fan of Breaking Bad. And it kind of gave me a little bit of
Mhm.
like Breaking Bad nostalgia,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I should do that. I would be a very unlikely drug kingpin.
Get your trap jumping.
I want to get my trap jumping. We got a big house now. You talked about my 4 bedrooms. We could have a couple. How many? My garage floor is epoxied, so the meth spills won't be too bad.
There you go. Don't worry about the kids; they'll be fine.
Yeah, I've got turf in the back, which Jen thinks means concrete or something.
Sorry, I'm just not a home
Don't you ever
improvement
watch
gal.
football? They're like, oh, this is
I
turf
don't
versus
watch
real grass.
football.
Okay, well,
I don't want. I've
maybe.
just gotten into sports and football. I tried, like, I did like one game, and I was like, nah. I watch basketball. I've been watching the playoffs. Lakers, shout out LeBron
Probably
and
not
his
going to hear
son,
much.
but I'm not watching
Yeah,
football.
the father to son assists.
It's
Pretty crazy.
crazy.
And yeah, if they're talking about turf in basketball, they've probably gone pretty far off course there.
Right.
The ball's not going to bounce well on turf. All right. I give this video a rainbow unicorn.
Okay.
That's the grade.
I feel like he
Studio,
had 2 out of
make it
3. You give
happen.
him like a C. Like he got 2 out of 3.
No one's ever gotten a rainbow unicorn before. That's better
Okay.
than an A,
Sure,
right?
sure. Okay.
I'm not giving it. No, I'll also give him an A plus because I think it's hilarious. And the 2 other ones were perfectly. Anyone who says index funds, I actually do appreciate when non-finance creators have like gone the index fund memo, because what he said was like very few traders beat the market. He's like 100% true, and I just think
Yeah.
more normal people should be saying that, because I think a lot of people still think. I see these like threads pop up where someone's like, I need to learn to invest. I need a mentor. I'm like, do you think you need someone to be like coaching you on which stocks to buy? Because you don't. You need to follow that
Right.
kind of advice, which is to buy the index fund.
Well, in fairness, they might need a mentor for like 2 sessions. It's, you know what I mean? Just to be
No,
like,
totally.
here's how
I'm
you
not
get
knocking
started.
the mentor, but
Yeah.
I'm worried that like what they think is
For sure. They think they
and
need like
there
a
might
lifetime
be-
coach. Yeah.
and that they might be opening themselves up to
Day
more
trading.
predatory coaches who are trying to push some agenda on them.
Sell them something like a podcast.
We're
or
doing our
something like
best here
that.
on the podcast. We're doing our best here.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, I think he's like a comedian or something. So normally his topics, actually, he's so random. He'll talk about anything. So I was like, when the worlds collide, I was like so happy. Ugh.
Nice.
Love it. Okay, let's move on to our final segment.
Money.
Jeremy had time today.
I'm in the comments. People are yelling at me, and now I get to respond to them without their ability to, fight, make their case. But they can have their own podcast if they want. This is our podcast.
That's
we got
true. It's
today,
harder
Jen?
than it looks, guys.
Yeah, we're fighting
Okay,
bad
so-
internet connections over here and off kilter audio. We do all this. We do all this stuff for you.
Don't even, I'm depressed. Okay. So this is, you got some action on a recent Instagram post titled PFC Millionaire, where someone who started their personal finance journey with your help in 2019 just became a millionaire. So do you want to
Amazing.
tell us about their testimony before we hop into the comment section?
Yeah, it's weird because back in 2019, 2020 is kind of when I started my personal finance creator journey, and I had like a really big influx of followers. I kind of hate that whole term, but a lot of people were starting to follow back then because of COVID, and everyone was indoors and learning about this stuff, and the market was being crazy, yada yada yada. And so I feel like now, 7 years later, there's this like early beginning of this wave of new PFC millionaires who are coming up, who said, I was broke or had very little money when I started following you, and I just do what you said, which is follow the 2 rules: live below your means, invest early and often. And now I'm a millionaire. And they're on the early wave, which means, like, of course, they're not just investing $100 a month. They're investing a lot of money. But the point is, they're living below their means. They're investing. They're not buying insurance. They're not day trading. They're not doing stupid stuff. They're just following the simple rules and, stacking their index funds over and over and over. And now they're cracking $1 million, and they're DMing me, and they're like, Jeremy, it happened. I literally at one point just started like screenshotting, and I think I've got like 10 or 15 screenshots from like
That's
a day or
amazing.
two that I'm gonna like make a post out of, because they're all millionaires and they all have a very similar story to this. And so this post says, With the market back near record highs, I'm hearing more and more stories like this. And this is a DM I got. It says, "Hey man, I started this journey in 2019. My first DM to you asking you for help with index funds. Just liked to tell you and share I finally crossed 1 million net worth. 850,000 is invested in index funds and some Tesla, Amazon, PLTR, which is Palantir. When I first reached out, I had about $60,000. Thank you for your posts and help." And he actually shared with me a screenshot of his net worth tracking software. He uses Personal Capital, which is now Empower. And sure enough, it shows $60,000 back on November of 2019. And as of today, it shows $1,196,000.
That's awesome. That's so inspiring.
Pretty crazy.
Yes.
And what did this commenter say?
Okay, this commenter says, which is funny, even when your commenters are kind of coming after you, they're still nice. He says, or they say, he def had more money to lump in and invest than most people. If you're on less than $100,000 salary, this is not feasible in that time. But also, heck yeah, good for him.
Yeah, and this was actually one of the nicer comments. A lot of people were. I was surprised. I thought this was going to be like a pretty vanilla post, but so many people were like, "That's not true. This math doesn't work out. That's not possible."
Like, the other ones just weren't as interesting. Like one person was like, "Money seems funny here. Like the math isn't mathing." Like, and I was like, "That's not that interesting."
Yeah, but a lot of people were like, "This isn't possible." And it's funny because my more typical post is just giving theoretical examples or hypothetical examples, like, Sally the emoji saves $500 a month with a 10% return and will have $3 million when she retires. And those get pushed back. That's not realistic. That's not true. I'm like, okay, that's, maybe that's fair. It's not realistic. It's an emoji with like just doing math. But then this is like a real actual human being who's shared the receipt of their actual net worth, being an actual real millionaire. And they're saying, even this person says, this is not feasible. I'm like, no, feasible. Like it's there. You're looking at it. Technically they're saying it's if you're on less than 100,000 salary, it's not feasible, which is like maybe true. And actually I did reach back out to this this original person who DM'd me and asked him, I did the math myself. I was like, oh yeah, they're investing a lot of money along the way, like probably like, over $1,000 a month, probably a few thousand a month over this time. And they said when they started, they were young, they're in their early 20s and they're making like $60,000 a year. And they just kind of went through it. They're like, yeah, for a few years I was living at home and investing 70% of my money. And then I moved out and was still investing 70% of my money. And I got raised along the way. And then I eventually started a business in my, late 20s and was making, low to mid six figures and was just investing a lot of that. And, I always, when I give examples of how people do it in my ear, I always hear people saying, that's not possible. I don't want to live at home. I can't start a business. I didn't do this. Like, that's just what that guy did. And it worked. It's $1 million. He was really intentional. You know how many other 23-year-olds didn't do this? They went and bought a rented apartment for $5,000 a month and they have a new stupid Rivian in their driveway. And they, they go on, fly first class because they got a bonus and they blah, blah, blah. And then, they're 7 years later, their net worth is negative $26,000. And so, this guy did, or this person, I don't think I've officially tried to dox their gender yet, but this person, probably the cat's out of the bag at this point. This person did some uncomfortable things and is now a millionaire around the age of 30. I think they said their age was. And so, a few takeaways. One, this is a very early PFC millionaire. There's going to be a wave of PFC millionaires that grows over time. The longer you're investing, the more likely you are to, become a millionaire. And this is someone who went hard. We're talking 70% savings rate, which is crazy. But also their income wasn't especially crazy until very recently where they started a business, and good on them. They were making normal amount of money, under $100,000 a year for, most of that time, just investing a ton of it. So yeah, it's real. You can do it. Your numbers will be different. Your story will be different. But the real takeaway here is this isn't a, wow, he really day traded well, or he did infinite banking by leveraging some complex financial service and, borrowing his own money and, leveraging a bunch of debt. Like, there's no tricky story here. His story was, I lived below my means and I plowed almost all the money into index funds. And I did little bit of stock picking because I'm an idiot in my 20s and I happened to guess right. So obviously not an idiot, but we all, and actually I endorse that too. Like I always say 90-10, hey, put 90% of your investments in index funds, 10% go nuts. And I think that's exactly what this person did, and picked some good stocks that happened to outperform recently, and their 10% did a little bit better than average. Will that continue? Who knows? But way to go. Amazing, And if that 10% went to zero, instead of having a $1 million portfolio, they'd have an $850,000 portfolio, which is still a lot of money. So congrats to this PFC millionaire, and to the commenters. All I can say is it's real. It works. I recommend you do it. Follow the
Kick
rules.
rocks, commenters.
They're always so nice. For always trying to dunk on the commenters. They're I was like, but also, heck yeah, good for him. Like the nicest person
so
ever.
Funny. I'm like, this is the meanest I could find. Okay, amazing. That is an awesome PFC success story. And we are now at the end of our episode. Thank you for listening. Come back. Hopefully we didn't piss you off, and you can come back next week.
Yes. And if you want to build wealth, all you got to do, just like that anonymous person in the post, is follow the 2 rules of Personal Finance Club. Rule number 1, live below your means. And rule number 2, invest early and often. See you next week.
The Personal Finance Club show is produced by Jeremy Schneider and Jen Mundia. Music by Esabalu and Homie. Send your questions to podcast@personalfinanceclub.com. The Personal Finance Club show is co-hosted by Jeremy Schneider, who is a co-owner of Nectarine, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The views expressed on this show are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Nectarine. Please refer to hellonectarine.com for all relevant disclosures. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as personalized investment advice or a solicitation to buy or sell any security. Listeners should consult their own financial, legal, or tax professionals for advice specific to their situation.